All right, welcome to Crypto News and Investigative Reports. I'm glad that you're able to join me today. We're going to get right into some news. Please follow us on Twitter. We're at RobTechP, and also please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. With that being said, let's get into some news here. One of the first things I want to do is, if you're not following Block TV, I'm a big fan of Block TV. I like everything that they are doing. I like the fact how they're making a contribution to the blockchain ecospace. I like their content. They have excellent content, and they have a lot of good videos, a lot of good speakers. I'm encouraged by their analytics. They have great people that they're interviewing. They have some very professional people all the way around in the whole ecosystem. All right, so please follow Block TV. I'm a big fan of Block TV now. I really enjoy watching them. I do Block TV and coffee every morning, and they're very good. I don't do blockchain and booze, but I do blockchain and coffee every morning. So please follow Block TV and give them a shout out. I want to try to help them to get up to 10,000 followers as fast and as soon as they can, because they really deserve it. You know, as you know, it's really tough trying to get good information and trying to pick out information and trying to go through all of this different information. So, like I said, follow Block TV. Block TV is very, very good. All right, and with that being said, I want to kind of get into what I want to share with you today. I want to share a couple of videos with you, and I've been doing some research on a couple of issues. And the first one is the CTFC, and oh, there's Joe Saz. You guys want to follow? You guys want to definitely follow Joe. Joe is definitely a great analyst. He does some real dynamite stuff. He really he's one of the best analysts that I've been able to follow, and he's very educational. All right. Enough about Block TV. I can go on and on about them. All right, and let's go to the first video that I want to show you. Is this video right here. This video is let me set it up right. Okay, this is the CTFC. I've been following, and I hope you've been following the CFTC, which is the Commodities Futures and Trades Commission. The Commodities Futures and Trades Commission on March 27th, 2019, they had public hearings, and Charles R. Mills, he testifies before the CFTC's Technical Advisory Committee. And what's happening right now is the SEC and the CFTC and a lot of these different organizations, the IRS and FinCEN, they're all trying to regulate virtual currencies and trying to figure out where they all stand in terms of regulating virtual currencies, right? I mean, the SEC is trying not to overlap with the CFTC, which is trying not to overlap with the IRS, which is trying not to overlap with FinCEN. You know, FinCEN has to investigate whether it's a currency or not. IRS have to investigate if it's property or not so they can charge taxes. The SEC is trying to see if it's a security, and the CFTC is trying to figure out if it's a commodity, a virtual currency. So with all of that going on, and I tweeted all that out. So, you know, if you want to copy down what I just said, I tweeted it out. So, you know, it's interesting that right now we're trying to see what regulatory action should be taken, and what division or what regulatory body should take the regulatory action in regulating virtual currencies. All right. So here's Charles R. Mills, and he's I'm gonna just play a little bit of his video because he tries to explain the overlapping between the SEC and the CFTC. Here we go.
Spend a few minutes here because we thought this might be of greatest interest to this group of the CFTC and SEC regulatory schemes and how they overlap. And we have in the Section 5 of the paper goes into this in some detail, but you basically have where commodities are a security underlies a commodity derivative transaction, and how does that happen? What happens there? Who has control or input into how that's regulated? The situation also where a commodity may, for lack of a better term, underlie a security, and that can be hybrid securities, which the Commission already has rules on, and that was an area that we talk about as an example of how both commissions came to a resolution of how to deal with these instruments without necessarily having to go to legislation. Eventually, Congress did step in, but it was really ratifying what the agencies had already done. And part of that is the exemptive powers of both agencies to exempt out certain transactions and effectively cede principal control and regulation of them to the other agency. And then you have the issue, which we'll talk about, to me is the most complicated one to resolve, which is where the security, where you have a non-security commodity, like a token on a ecosystem that's going to be used to be a medium of exchange to buy services and goods on that ecosystem, that's set up by a private company saying, this is what we'll provide to you, and you can use these tokens to buy and sell our products in exchange for that. So that token might be considered a commodity. Probably, I think the CFTC, the Commission, would consider it so. And it would just be a CFTC issue, except for the ICO, the initial coin offering process, where the coins are also offered to raise capital in order to build out the ecosystem. And so the SEC has recognized and taken a strong position that those are investment contracts, and that they would have plenary authority over the offering of those coins in that context to the public. And the question there is what is the CFTC's role at the time of initial offering? Does it have none, or is there a role? And then what has been also recognized is that these investment contracts can convert into just a pure commodity at some point when the token is just being used as a medium of exchange, and it's no longer being used to solicit funds and raise capital from the public. And as I'm sure everybody knows, the SEC has taken the position that, and has referenced Ethereum as an example, that this can happen. And you can have something that might have been, and they don't actually declare, I think, whether Ethereum was a security or not, but they're saying you can have it where it's an investment contract, eventually it becomes so broadly utilized that it's purely a medium of exchange and something that the SEC would no longer regulate. That's a tremendous problem for the industry and for this marketplace, because there is no system today of regulation or anything else that tells you when something would convert and what are the circumstances when that would happen, and are there legacy issues. If you convert an investment contract, it becomes a commodity. If somebody has a claim that the statute of limitations hasn't run on the investment contract under the securities laws, can they bring that claim if it's no longer considered a security? That's just a simple example of how difficult these issues are. And I'll also turn it back to Katie, but I think one of the points that the paper makes is that there probably will need to be, if there isn't, really ongoing formalized processes between the two agencies to survey what these issues are and to try to grapple with them and figure out how to deal with it effectively for the markets and for the public.
Okay, so you basically heard, well, let me drop it back down. You basically heard a portion of the CFTC's hearings on trying to regulate virtual currencies, and as you heard him try to explain the overlapping problem between the SEC, the CFTC, and not to mention all of the other organizations. So the reason why I bring this point up is because ain't nothing going to happen until you get a regulation. Okay, I mean, I know people think that we'll be able to bypass regulation, but one of the main focuses of the CFTC, the SEC, FinCEN, and the IRS is to make sure that that virtual currency is regulated, and just like they've regulated fiat currencies. And so there's going to be a difficulty in regulation. So, that's going to be an issue for a while. I don't think you're going to have clarification right away. If anybody is talking about, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, ain't nothing going to happen until you get clarification and clarification in the divisions of these regulatory bodies. Without that, you're not going to get anything. There's another point I want to bring out, and maybe it'll come back later. But that's okay. That's the main purpose right now. That's what's on. No, that's this. I got it. Came back. It's not going to prohibit not having regulations right now for virtual currency is not going to prohibit distributed ledger technology and blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is going to be moving and continuing to progress, and it's allowed to move forth and to progress without congressional or senatorial regulations or any regulating bodies. Distributed ledger technology is going to be able to go forth. So the technology is not the problem. The problem is regulating the virtual currencies, and so that's the point I want to bring out. It's not no regulation is not prohibiting distributed ledger technology, and so that's a good thing for the blockchain. The blockchain technology is still being used, and it's being used for some other things right now that is not those cases like the healthcare. And some of these food chain and healthcare is not as big as banking, but blockchain technology is moving forth without the clarification of regulation, and but virtual currencies is going to get held up until you get clarification in the regulations. All right, I wanted to share that with you today, and the other thing I wanted to share with you today is this opinion that this is a student at the Liechtenstein University, and there was a survey done on what the students at Liechtenstein University, what they think regarding what investors which way investors will go. And so she's asked a question about which way will investors go, and she says investors are at an intersection, and I'm going to play for you how she splits it up. She says, and I'll kind of preference her remarks with what she's asked, because you can't hear the question very well. But what she's asked is, which way do she think which road does she think investors will take regarding the future of investing in virtual currencies? And it's interesting. She says that investors will take either a global reserve currency perspective, and they will invest in virtual currency as a global reserve perspective, or investing in virtual currencies as a company that offers revenue sharing and they pay a dividend. So she's basically giving an excellent observation regarding which way she sees investors going in the future, and I'll let her explain that. But that's pretty much the question to her. Which way, as a student at Liechtenstein University, which way do you see investors going in the future of virtual currencies? And let's listen to what she has to say.
The revolution in the finance sector, which potentially might be there. What do you think? How will blockchain and also other technologies will change finance?
Well, I think that what you have with the cryptocurrencies that are basically being used to store value medium of exchange is that you have a speculative bet on whether or not a currency will become money or not. So if it becomes money, then you might have a capital gain on your investment. If it doesn't become money, then you have a value of zero for this technology. On the other hand, you now have security token offerings of coins that are offering cash flows, and you can do discounted cash flow analysis on these security token offerings. So I think the investors are going to split into whether they see value in investing on a global reserve and global medium of exchange versus investing in a company that offers revenue sharing and dividends.
Okay. And do you think blockchain is the next big thing?
Well, I think that it depends on what the use case is. So, for example, I think that blockchains that have decentralization and have high latency on the network, high transaction costs, I think that the only applications that can use these public blockchains are applications that can allow high transaction fees on the first layer, on the primary layer for the settlement. On the other hand, applications that need low transaction fees, I think that they're going to go more towards more centralized semi-private blockchains or federated blockchains where it's a little bit more centralized, more trust involved in the counterparties, and on the other hand, more scalable. So I think that you're going to have this divide between applications.
So you are from the US and now you're living in Liechtenstein, so what made you coming to Europe, for example?
Well, I moved to Europe originally to do my master's degree at the Toulouse School of Economics in France, and then I started the PhD program at the University of Liechtenstein, where I've been researching cryptocurrencies since 2016. And I think that Liechtenstein is really a great place if you want to be in the center of everything that's going on for cryptocurrencies. I think that's what's really cool about the whole cryptocurrency revolution and blockchain revolution is that it's actually occurring in the German-speaking countries, so in Switzerland, in Austria, in Germany, and in Liechtenstein. And I think that this is really different from the internet boom, which really predominantly occurred in California. And I think that actually, like in Zug now and in Munich, you'll actually see a lot of investors from the U.S. coming to Germany and coming to Liechtenstein and Switzerland in order to find new firms to invest in, right? So I think that there's this whole change going on where the boom is occurring here, and Liechtenstein is just a great place to be if you want to be at the center of this blockchain industry.
You're also running a crypto fund.
Okay, I'll stop it right there. I thought that was an excellent explanation of her. She gave a great explanation in her opinion, I should say, regarding which way she thinks investors are going to go. And I kind of agree with that because there are so many virtual currencies. There's over 1,600 virtual currencies, and I think investors that are really investing in virtual currency needs to know as much information about the completeness of virtual currency, the completeness in investing, completeness in regulation. I think it's important that we get every information that we can about the FTC, the CFTC, the IRS, the FinCEN, the Security and Exchange Commission. I think it's very important that we get all of the information if you're an investor. I know that the road that I'm taking is a lot different from what I began. When I first began, being here in the Silicon Valley, it was ripples in San Francisco, and I had a heavy concentration on that. But there's over 1,600 virtual currencies, and I think investors, people that are investing in virtual currencies, and I'm not a financial advisor. Please, this is just for educational purposes, and this is my personal opinion. I am not a financial advisor. But I do think that the more information that the public can get is extremely important. And finally, my last point before closing today is that I appreciate the fact that we want to regulate these virtual currencies because at this point there is no consumer protections. And I think that by far is the most important part of regulation, is that we get some type of consumer protections, because at this point, if you lost your virtual currency on some of these exchanges, there's not really any consumer protection laws that would protect the individual right now. So that's my final point. All right. I hope you enjoyed our video today. Please follow us on Twitter, Crypto News and Investigative Report. at Robtech, ROBTECH, Robtech P. And please subscribe and hit the bell. The bell will give you an alert when we're putting up a video. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great day.